Taulapapa from Samoa. Thank you, Philip, for your kind words. And yes, you absolutely have a Samoan aspect of your lives and your family's lives. And Kirsty Ruddock was a wonderful youth ambassador and continues to be an amazing lawyer. Can I also greet you as a former Attorney General and law officer in your past life? Can I also acknowledge my fellow esteemed thought leaders, Your Excellency, Monsieur Tebo, as well as the Honourable Peter Kenaloria Jr. Greetings to all of those that are on this virtual summit. And yes, I have different clothes from the ones that I wore this morning when I welcomed you for the Pacific. I think we have just witnessed an extraordinary and an exceptional week in global history, and it's not only because I'm the honorary British consul, but extraordinary and exceptional in equal measure. We have 4 billion, I think, souls around the globe joined the United Kingdom and Northern Ireland to bid farewell to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. It's an occasion never before seen, I think, in all our lifetimes, nor likely to be repeated in such scale and pageantry. The repeated themes from the public messages of condolence were of dedicated service, of commitment to her Commonwealth of Nations, and of the Queen's deep and abiding faith in God. I think we all have in the Pacific, we all experience those same traits and the importance of them in our particular communities. I think it's for this address anyway, it's important to place where we are in the Pacific at the moment in some sort of context. And I would like to start with the words of the Dean of Westminster, as he was talking about Her Majesty and the bidding and the order of service. And he said this: with gratitude, we remember her unswerving commitment to a high calling over so many years as Queen and Head of the Commonwealth. With admiration, we recall her lifelong sense of duty and dedication. With thanksgiving, we praise God for her constant example of Christian faith and devotion. And with affection, we recall her love for her family and commitment to the causes she held dear. As we're talking about governance, and particularly for the countries who are members of the Commonwealth took a prominent role in the last 2 weeks. Obviously, the Commonwealth core values and principles were part of the entry fee that nations paid to join that particular grouping of nations with that relationship with the British Crown. And in those values lay the values that were the foundation stones for most of our democracies. And those included human rights, peace and security, freedom of expression, the rule of law, good governance, separation of powers, tolerance, respect and understanding, and many, many others. These shared values define and direct our civil identity. And as Peter says, we are relatively young democracies. However, it's our cultures that identifies us in the vast diversity that you find in the Commonwealth and the United Nations. And it's those cultures which actually define our uniqueness. Shared identity in the Pacific has, I believe, historically meant that we have as new democracies try to distance ourselves and actively work to reduce the risk of autocracy, oligarchy and dictatorship in our newly independent states. We have had varied success and some failures. It's been when we failed to protect and hold safe those democratic values and governance principles that there has been a shift towards autocratic and tyrannical behaviour in our region, led by Pacific strongmen who universally have the traits of being uncompromising, aggressive, domineering, and belligerent. And in the course of their time in power and in office, have variously suspended our constitutions, sacked or suspended our judges, undermined the rule of law, and ignored the principles of good governance. All this while they control and play greedily with public funds and public resources and lift corruption as the prevailing value during their time in power. These strongmen have taken power in our Pacific states periodically and behave in stark contrast to the Pacific statesmen and stateswomen who have championed democracy, often prepared the way for democracy, and fought for regional unity. What the Pacific needs now and always will are development partners who support the Commonwealth democratic values which they model in their domestic politics, and in doing so declare their affinity with Pacific states in the observance of those values, that they are faithful and deliberate in upholding such values which protect democracy, the rule of law and human rights in all our lands. Some of the most treasured and memorable traits of Her Majesty was her constancy by word and in deed, her faithfulness to her values and her humanity in difficult times. And many of us can remember that the first message that was often given in times of cyclone and earthquake to many of our countries was a message from Buckingham Palace. Samoa has recently undergone a period of political instability and uncertainty. However, but for the pillars of democracy, in particular the rule of law and independent judiciary, we steered through those tough times with our nation intact and relying on Samoan culture to act to prevent civil unrest. Now more than ever, the Pacific needs its leaders to heed the science, be innovative in the way they protect and strengthen our economies, and heed the voices of their people. The waters of the Pacific are lapping, as they've always done throughout time, on shores which are attracting great geopolitical interest. They're lapping with greater volume and increasing vigour on our shores. Our shared identity with our historical links and the sharing of peoples and cultures within this region in particular allows us to draw strength from each other. For it is when we are isolated and alone that we lose our way. Ours has been a voyage of discovery, settlement, and peace. Modelling common values by example, we can now say, was an Elizabethan mantra. And the test of our unity is now at hand, by land, by sea, and air, and what will be the Pacific's default setting. This week has been a great opportunity for introspection and reflection. And as we thought and think about what was good and unique about Her Majesty and her reign, What impact did it have on our own lives and our own sense of responsibility and duty, wherever and whatever we do and are? What does service, commitment, and faith look like in our islands, in our countries? How will our communities survive the current onslaught of global challenges? I'd suggest, after spectating for the last 2 weeks and hearing so much said about those values, that perhaps a firm core grounded in the values of democracy, human rights, and the observance of the rule of law is a great start. Being vigilant when any one of those things or institutions are challenged and attacked. Being engaged in regional and international groupings of countries which share those values. Relying on the goodwill and cooperation of our development partners for support and stability, and our affinity underpinned with the countries and island states which have similar traits to us. And then we have the individuals, the people that we vote for, the people that we appoint to public office, that they are personally committed to peace, prosperity, and unity. During our recent troubles last year in 1991, there were T-shirts that recorded our mantra to get us through, and it was, you could get a T-shirt with "I stand for the rule of law," or "I stand for democracy," or "I stand for the judiciary." Pacific people need to stand up to protect the values that protect them, and stand up in the face of challenges to peace and prosperity in our land. I'd like to thank Catherine Fritz-Kalish of GAP, who is hosting this virtual program, and thank all of you for your time. Whaftaima i manui.